Hey, Nato here. Today I'm going to do part 1 of my What If Luffy Was Half Saiyan. In the last part, I basically went from the start of the series all the way to Bastion, since basically Crocodile was the first real fight of the series. Well, for this Luffy, since he's able to take people stronger than him down in the main continuity, like only because his will is literally one of the most scariest thing in that world. Right side of him is directly the will of Zoro, which is pretty close. So yeah, in the main continuity, people 1.5 to 2 times his strength, he can take them down after a long amount of time because he outmatched them in stamina and endurance. But in this one, everything from him is was augmented by 3 up until Alabastia, where Crocodile still beated him 2 times because of his ability to steal moisture from anything, which basically made it so that even for Luffy, and being half Saiyan, since he was made of sand and that he was transforming automatically, it was pretty hard to beat him up until the end, where he was using his blood to fight. But you see, so he passed from 3 times the strength of normal Luffy to about 4 times his strength, since a Saiyan gets stronger every time they are close to death, and that he was literally close to death twice at that moment. And then a 3rd time after fighting Crocodile, which augmented him to about 4.2 times stronger. Because a half Saiyan is basically just have an augmented amount of well, a half Saiyan, half human seem to get more power every time they are close to death than a full Saiyan. So for a half Saiyan Luffy, it basically augments it the same way, which makes him a freaking force to be reckoned with. So when they left, they took Robin as well, and now they're going to Skypiea, where they stop at the island where Cricket is. Cricket being the guy that his great something grandfather basically found an island with a massive city of gold that was thrown into the air because of one of the water tower. That's what I'm calling them. So on that, when they went to that island, basically everything was the same except, well, basically from them meeting crickets. Because the thing before they get there with the monkey bros and the underwater thing basically happened the exact same, except that if I remember correctly, they didn't actually fight them, so nothing changed from there. Zoro and Sanji trained a lot more than in the anime, because they wanted to stay close to Luffy. So compared to the anime at this point, their powers, well, strength and whatever, are basically about 1 point. Wait, for Zoro it would be about 1.8 at this point, and not 1.8 but 1.6. Sanji, having been taken, sorry, taken in later, about a 1.3, which, since they're already massively strong, it's basically impressive anyway. So for they met Cricket, they went to town, they fought. Well, Bellamy punched them. They didn't do anything. They came out. Blackbeard told them that they were good at fighting, and then both Zoro and Luffy said Nami when she said, "Who was he?" Not he, them. For some reason. Then they go back, they talk the same way, and then the moment where um, Cricket's gold is stolen, they talk about where they have to go, and Luffy goes to fight Bellamy. He's a lot faster, so he basically gets there earlier. Once there, for the first time, I'm going to say what the bounty is. Basically, it's the same because, well, yes, he fights them pretty easily, but the Marines only see it as he won a fight. They haven't fought him yet in the same way. Yeah, they fought him, but I mean, they didn't use soldiers that are trained for that, just normal Marines yet. So against Bellamy, basically the same thing happened with the one punch, except that this time the hole in the ground was basically bigger. And compared to just knocking him out, it almost killed him this time. He took the gold and left, basically getting back a lot sooner. Then they left, basically the same thing happened for going to Skypiea. They fought once in that place, but they had trouble. Luffy didn't have that trouble, basically. Well, no, he had it, but the old guy came to them, fought the others, um, talked with them, then pointed them to the where they had to go. And since after that moment, all the way up to when they met with the guy that was able to fix the motorboat that Nami can use most of that arc and sometimes later as well. And well, basically when they fight the guards, Luffy just used basically went for the same tactic and did the Gum Gum. I don't remember the name of that because he only used it twice. That time and the second time it was the same thing but with golden ball at the end because because of later. So basically he beated them to the ground. They left after everything happened. Usopp got the shells. Well, tiles, if I remember correctly for the name. So they went to the same place, the forest, where since the first fight that Luffy did, basically everything the guy that was against him had was just making him about 4 or 5 times faster than Luffy. This time Luffy's able to catch up to him, but he's still not able to punch him, only hitting the dial, which made, well, Luffy get beaten down a lot as well. Basically, for that part, everything happened the same up until they beat him. The others getting out of the boat and leaving in the forest basically happens the same. Um, all the way until Enel basically starts the game, like he called it. Everything happened practically the same because the only three that are stronger than in the anime basically fight against people that are still stronger than them at this point. So, hmm. I'll have to pause for a bit, be right back. Okay, so like I was saying, practically every fight was the same since only 3 people basically got stronger. So, well, basically every fight up until the game starts, and then people start attacking Luffy. People that aren't actually with Enel. Basically, Luffy takes them down a lot easier. He gets eaten by the snake. That happens anyway. After coming out of the snake, he starts going where Enel was. After he took Nami. And this is the first moment where a lot changes. When he finally meets Enel for real, and Enel's on his ship, flying ship. Basically, they start. Enel tries to attack him, it doesn't work on him, and the first punch that lands on Enel, compared to just hitting him normally, he basically broke his jaw and threw him almost across the entire boat, which then Enel started to do the same thing as in the original, trying to fight back. After a while, he basically did the same thing, putting the golden ball on Luffy and then pushing him out of the boat. And since after that moment, Luffy, all he does is try to go up the plant. Well, nothing else changed afterward, except that Enel just had to place back his jaw. Which he did without really thinking that it was that bad, but we're talking about Luffy there. This time Luffy was able to go up the stem himself for a good amount of time, but later Nami catched up to him, brought him up. So Enel did the same technique, which made him go bigger, with Luffy basically using the golden ball to ring the bell as well as to beat Enel. Afterward, everything happens basically the same up until they get to the marine base. In that place, since every punch Luffy gave to anyone basically one-shot them, Same thing for Zoro and Sanji. Basically, it all happens the exact same, since Luffy's basically a lot stronger. Since against Enel he did get damage anyway. So he grew to like 4.3 instead of 4.2 times his normal strength. Yeah, this is how I'm going to place the strength that he has. Because it's a lot easier to try and than to try and give him a power level. So after a bit of doing that basically and finally getting out of there, they went to the next island, which was the place where they found Frankie. In that place, everything happens the exact same, since when Robin was taken from them and that they wanted to kill the shipwright, what happened to Luffy was basically someone using people that are like at least 10 times stronger than him. The only reason he was able to beat them later was thanks to basically Gear Second, which basically augment his speed by about 3 times, augment his strength and the hardness of his skin by almost twice the strength, and adds a massive heat to it, which can hurt a lot if you're not used to heat. And even then, he was struggling a lot. So, only being 4.3 times stronger, he basically got beaten the same way. So, he developed the same techniques, Gear Second and Gear Third. And then they went after Nami. Basically, every battle afterward, all the way to Marineford, or not Marineford, but CP9. I mean, all the way to there, except for Sanji and Zoro, who fought 2 other people. Basically, the fights are exactly the same, except for Sanji, that against the cook guy. Since, like I said, he was 1.3 times stronger, since they train more to basically still be kind of classed in the same amount. Which this time they won't be able to catch up to Luffy at all, but still. So, while they're going there, and every fight happens, when they get there on the bullet train, what happened is basically the same thing with Zoro and Luffy using what was it, 400-pound Phoenix and 400-pound, I don't remember, from Luffy. I remember every arc and every high points of every arc up to just before Punk Hazard. So I don't remember small details like the name of special attack you never use again. But that I remember. So they do the exact same thing to the water, making a hole in it. Later, Zoro cutting a train in half. And then when they arrive to the island, for Usopp the same thing happened. For Luffy, he basically beats the Marine easier. Zoro and Sanji were basically cutting It's cutting through every marine easier as well, so they had even less trouble, and they didn't hurt the I call them water horses. I'm just going to continue calling them that. But the two giant water horses weren't hurt at all this time, because the only reason they were hurt was because they were over sieged by so many marines. But this time, with Luffy beating a lot more, and so Sanji and Zoro basically taking down a lot and being better, they didn't even get hurt. So that happened pretty good. Luffy arrived on the top of the tower where he fought against Bluno, if I remember correctly, the Dorador fruit user. Practically everything was the same, with him being faster than the last time they fought. This time being a lot bigger than the last time. Well, than in the anime. So the fight was practically almost equal up until Luffy used Gear Seconds, which then he basically two-shotted Bluno. Afterward, everyone in the Straw Hat got to the roof. The same thing with Shoga King burning the flag. Then the Straw Hats entering CP9. Every fight that happened, basically with Zoro and Usopp when they got stuck together. Zoro was still able to fight back a little better. Nami trained more with her climb attack. Basically, this time she was able to control it practically perfectly, since sometimes she was kind of slipping up with the new version. A lot less than with the first one, but this time, because she saw how Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji were, she basically decided to train a lot more with it. So she got stronger. So she's about 1.1 times her normal strength. It's not a lot, but when you think about it, every Straw Hat getting a lot stronger than in the anime shouldn't be weird, actually. When Chopper fought against the other guy, which was basically his first true fight that we saw, well, full fight, that we see that he's about 1.2 times stronger, since he was already trying to get stronger from the start compared to Nami, that's only trained with her climb attack. Usopp, wanting to be a brave warrior, basically was trying to train, making him about 1.4 times stronger than in the original. Yes, it's a bigger boost than Sanji, but the difference is that Usopp always was training a bit. So he was always getting stronger, but in the anime it wasn't enough to make a true difference. But in this one, he basically decided to train truly after everything happened on his island, so he was training truly. His strength was just augmenting extremely slow, but at least he got to that point, and at the same time he got taken in earlier than Sanji and started training like he was training earlier. So basically every Straw Hat is a tad stronger. Some makes a bigger difference than most, but you get it. So Sanji against the wolf guy was basically almost a breeze. the moment. Well, he was getting hurt, but not as much. And then he took out Diablo Jambe, which one-shotted the guy just like in the anime. For Nami, it basically happened the exact same way. The battle with Chopper basically happened the exact same way as well, with Frankie having to push him into water at the end to make sure that he was staying down. And then we get to when Zoro has the cup removed. And so once Zoro basically gets unleashed for real, the battle's a bit easier against the giraffe guy. Square Usopp, basically. So he beats him faster, gets less injury, shows us as his demon form, which is basically just him making 6 swords out of thin air that still have mass for some reason, which is awesome looking, even though we don't see it anymore in the series. From before Punk Hazard, that's all I saw, but if he showed it later, well, awesome. So, when it gets down to it, and that it's Luffy against Lucci, this is where the difference is massive. Luffy being, well, during the time between Lucci putting him down on Water 7 and them fighting on CP9, Luffy seemed to have gained a 1.6 time boost because he was a lot faster naturally, a lot stronger naturally, and everything like that. So when you take that in consideration, Luffy almost doesn't even need to use Gear 3rd. He still uses it, but the hit push basically knocks out Lucci the first time. So he doesn't have the same trouble. After that, basically on the bridge, everything happens practically the same up until Luffy decides to join. After he joined, well, they fought off all of the marine. Zoro lost one of his swords. Everything else happened basically the same with everyone basically jumping on the Mary. And at the end of that, the Mary being burnt, everyone crying. So, in the end, afterward, Frankie made the Thousand Sunny. Afterward, he came into the Straw Hat crew. Usopp asked for forgiveness, which they then took him back in. Oh yeah, also, the fight from Luffy and Usopp was basically the exact same way because just like in the anime, Luffy was holding back to the exact same amount. Which in this means he was holding back a lot more, but he was basically using the same strength as what he was using in the anime to not kill Usopp, basically. So yeah, after they left, the only difference in this is that Luffy's bounty is about like... Wait, just want to make sure of something. Where the hell is it? Oh, why the hell is it there? Be right back. So, in the anime it was 300 million berry that he was at this point. He got more than what everyone else had. Compared to, compared to the original bounty, everyone had the exact same at the end of that, except for Luffy that got like 50 million more, since he was a lot faster in defeating everyone, and that this time, after defeating Lucci, he went and helped and defeated even more Marines, which augmented his bounty. So after this arc, it's going to be sorry about that. Um, it's going to be Trailer Bark. I'm going to do that in the second part, because in this one, a lot of things will be different. Like a lot of them, since Midoriya's Moria's power is to take the shadow of someone and put it in another in a zombie to make it alive, and the zombie basically gains the strength, well, part of the strength of the shadow's owner, gains their mentality and moveset if the body can replicate it, because well, he needed Moria to be able to use the Gum Gum moves, but he was still trying to use them before that. So yeah, I'm going to do that arc in the next part. So I hope you liked it, and yeah, Natsu out.